Hi, this is information you need to know if you're getting a piercing. When we do piercings, you have some risks involved with piercings. First risk of piercing is that you can have an allergic reaction to the jewelry. That is very common, and actually, the biggest risk of piercing is an allergic reaction. More people have allergic reactions to metals than ever get infections, and the two are different. I have people come in and they'll say, if I wear the wrong jewelry, I always get an infection. That is not infection, that is allergic reaction. It is different. Allergic reaction is caused from an allergy to metal. Infection is caused from bacteria. If we have an allergy to metal, you have to take out the thing causing the allergic reaction or it does not get better. An infection is caused from bacteria. If you have a true infection rather than an allergic reaction to jewelry, you need to leave the jewelry in place so the hole stays open and the infection can drain out. That is the opposite from allergic reactions where we do take the jewelry out. Always want to consult your piercer or your doctor, although doctors don't always know the difference either. But yeah, so allergic reaction to jewelry, first risk of piercing. Piercings can always bleed. Navel piercings don't usually bleed, but they can bleed. When they do bleed, they have better blood supply, which means better healing. Um, Anything from the neck up generally always bleeds. When you get a cartilage piercing, a lot of people think that it is bleeding more because it's pierced in the cartilage. Cartilage has no blood supply. There are no blood vessels in your cartilage. So the cartilage itself does not bleed, but the cartilage is sandwiched by tissue on either side of it. That tissue on either side of the cartilage does have blood vessels in it, so it does have blood supply, and that's what bleeds. Everybody's different as far as how much they bleed, but it's nothing to worry about, generally speaking, as long as you don't have any health conditions. It'll stop bleeding, from anywhere from like a few minutes to a few hours. And then, of course, there's always that pesky risk of infection. Infection is caused from bacteria. Your hands are the number one carrier of bacteria. The best way that you can reduce the risk of getting an infected piercing, leave it alone. Don't touch it. And that includes no turning jewelry. There is some antiquated information out there where people used to say, oh, you have to turn the jewelry in your piercing. And that is bad information. If you turn jewelry in a piercing, you're doing two things. Number one, you are touching it. And every single time you touch it, you increase the risk it's going to get infected. Number two, when you turn jewelry on purpose in a piercing, you are actually tearing the healing process taking place inside the wound. So you are disrupting the healing. Don't turn jewelry in a piercing. Leave it alone completely for months and months and months. Most piercings take upwards of about a year to heal. Anything less than that is bad information. If you go to some of these places in the mall and they tell you 6 weeks, wrong. That is false. I don't know if they're lying to you on purpose or they just don't know what they're talking about because there is no piercing that heals in 6 weeks. Doesn't happen. So leaving it alone is your best bet. That reduces the risk of infection tremendously. Um, Aftercare has nothing to do with keeping a piercing from getting infected. A lot of people think that, though. I would say the majority out in the world think, I have to clean my piercing or it's going to get infected. Wrong. That's not true. Don't touch it. That's the best way to reduce infection. You can do all the aftercare in the world. And if you're messing with that piercing, it's still getting infected. So aftercare has nothing to do with it. There is only one reason that we do aftercare on a piercing. And to be honest with you, aftercare is not that important on a piercing. The only reason for aftercare is because piercings get crusty. It's basically scabbing, is what it is. A piercing is a deep puncture wound, and inside that tube are open tissues. So those open tissues, until they begin to heal, continually leak body fluid. That body fluid rolls out either side of the hole. The air hits the body fluid, dries it into a scabbing or a crusting formation that blocks air from getting to the wound. So by doing a little aftercare on the wound, you can get that crusting to fall off a little quicker, which can lead to a little quicker healing. Although, I mean, that's why aftercare is not that important because they're still going to take upwards of close to a year to heal anyway. So, if you do aftercare, it can be soothing. It can allow it to get more air circulation. But the only thing that we ever use for piercing aftercare is a sterile saline solution that is 0.9% saline. So don't make it yourself at home. There's a lot of things on the market now that you can get. I think Wound Wash has one. Um, H2 Ocean out there. They've been around for a long, long time. So there's a lot of sterile saline products out there that you can get. But that's the only thing that you want to use. Don't use any alcohols, peroxides, bactenes, neosporins, anything like that, because um, any foreign liquid that you're putting inside that wound can hinder the healing and cause a lot of irritation. The body doesn't like foreign objects in there. That's why rejection takes place, which I failed to mention. I will do that. Um, but it also doesn't like foreign liquids. And what happens if you're using foreign liquids is your body will attempt to flush them out. And you get a lot more draining going on. It causes a lot more crusting. A lot more crusting causes a lot more soreness, redness, irritation. So don't use any of that. Just use a sterile saline spray on your piercing if you want to do aftercare on the piercing, which you don't have to. You don't have to do anything on a piercing. No aftercare. As long as you leave that piercing alone, that piercing will heal. Okay. Um, I didn't mention rejection in the start. Let me mention that. My rejection migration type of metal really helps to reduce that from taking place. The body doesn't like foreign objects. I just mentioned that in my aftercare thing. Um, so if you're using a metal that's not as biocompatible as some other metals, then you can get more rejection and migration. And I find that as long as you're using the STM F136 or F138 implant grade metals, titanium, surgical stainless steel isn't my favorite, but some people are allergic to titanium. So, surgical stainless steel is okay. But as long as you're using that, you really cut down on the risk of rejection and migration. The most important thing, though, about your piercing is please leave them alone. That is the number one most important thing that you can remember. And the second most important thing that you can remember about a piercing is that they take a lot longer to heal than you think they do. So I do not recommend changing piercings anywhere from at least 8 months for earlobes to about a year for anything else. Cartilage itself does not have a blood supply. I mentioned that before, so it takes a very long time to heal. So don't change any cartilage piercings um, for at least 1 year. Navels, a year. Earlobes, depending on your age, usually around 8 months or so. Um, and again, always contact your piercer if you have questions or concerns, or your doctor if you think you have an infection. I hope this has helped. And I am Dynamic Piercing and Tattoo in Franktown, Colorado. Have a sister studio opening in Spokane, Washington. That's going to be Legacy Premier Piercing, and they're coming soon to you.